This is the same Matt Gaetz that has been under investigation by the DOJ, Department of Justice, for sleeping with an underage girl and paying young women to have sex with him. Paying them to have sex with him. This is the man he wants who is under investigation. This is the man that he has chosen to run the Department of Justice as the Attorney General of the United States of America. Hello, and welcome to America at the Crossroad, where religion, faith, and politics collide. I'm your host, Pastor Frank E. Leggett III, and the title of today's podcast is Countdown to Crazy. January 2025 will begin a whole new chapter in American history, and it will not be a good chapter for many reasons. And what we all know is this: Donald Trump told us what he was going to do day one of his new presidency. And I'm here to inform you that the next 4 years and possibly beyond is going to be absolutely crazy, beginning Inauguration Day 2 months from now. Permit me to explain. And I'm going to explain the reasons why January 2025 will be the beginning of the Trump Crazy Tour. And so in this broadcast, I'm going to share several reasons why this will be the case. So let me start with point number one, and here we go. Starting January 2025, Trump will do the unthinkable. He will exact revenge on his enemies and his critics. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that is not presidential. And Donald Trump has declared that he will go after his political enemies as the president of the United States of America. Can you believe it? And in an interview that he did with Sean Hannity, Hannity tried to throw him a bone. He tried to give him a softball question and get him to deny the fact that he is not going to be a tyrant on day one or at any point in his presidency. And Trump couldn't resist. So check out this video clip.
Circumstances you are promising America tonight, you would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
Except for day one. Now, very famous person said, when somebody tells you who they are, believe them. He is a dictator. He is a wannabe dictator and tyrant. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to believe him. And then, as unthinkable, he says the unthinkable about Liz Cheney merely because, as a Republican, she voted for, she supported, and she campaigned for Kamala Harris and Colin Allred in Texas. And I want you to listen to the vile and the evil and the unprecedented things he says about Liz Cheney. Take a look at this clip.
Or Hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face.
When the guns are trained on her face. He's talking about putting an American citizen in front of a firing squad. No president in the 248 almost 250 years of this American experiment, no president has ever said such vile and heinous and horrific words. No president, nor any presidential candidate. None, ever. And what he does is he completely disqualifies himself from being the president and commander-in-chief of this country when he refers to, in this next clip, he's going to be talking about the individuals who didn't vote for him, who campaigned against him. And he is as mad as he can be. And he comes up with a specific title for them. Check out this next video clip.
I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within, not even the people that have come in and destroying our country. By the way, totally destroying our country. The towns, the villages, they're being inundated. But I don't think they're the problem in terms of election day. I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military.
By the military. So, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to warn you. It is going to become extremely crazy when Trump is sworn in as the 47th president of these United States of America. And when Trump takes over January 20, because he's already told us what he's going to do with immigrants, it is going to be crazy. Because he's hateful of anybody who doesn't look like him and doesn't come from where he comes from. And so he's telling us what he's going to do. And he's going to deport good people in this country. Take a look at this next clip.
Launched the largest deportation program in American history.
Overnight, Trump wrote true to a social media post saying the incoming administration is preparing a national declaration of emergency and the use of military assets to deport the immigrants.
He is going to, and you know what's so crazy about this? You know what's absolutely insane? %69% of women in this last election voted for Trump. I believe the figures are like over 50% of Hispanics voted for Trump. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because he had already told them he was going to deport them. What in the world is wrong with us? How can you vote for an individual who tells you he's going to deport your people? What is wrong with you? And now the Hispanic community all over the country, and especially in heavily Hispanic states and cities and towns, they're freaking out down there in Florida. And Florida voted for Trump. Largely because the Hispanic population. And now you have the nerve to be concerned and upset? You got to be kidding me. And for those of you who voted for them, you asked for this. So you really don't have anything to say when this goes down. You really have no complaint because you voted for this. You endorsed this. You co-signed this. So in addition to that, let's go to point number 2. which is Trump is going to repeatedly and intentionally violate the Constitution of the United States of America any way he can. Now, here's what we know. We already know that Trump will begin on day one with mass deportations of immigrants. But what's worse is Trump declared that he will even deport legal immigrants from this country. Individuals who have come to this country and have gone through the process of getting their green cards or whatever the process is, and they are legal in this country. He said he's going to deport even some of them. So the question is mass deportations, particularly by the military, is that legal? So I want you to listen to what some people in the know say about the legality or the illegality of this coming process that will begin January 1, because that's when he said it will begin. Check out this video clip.
Calling out, the army into the domestic confines of the United States seems uncalled for and may in fact be unconstitutional and illegal.
You can't use the military for domestic enforcement.
Kent College of Law immigration expert Victoria Carmona.
I don't think everyone should panic, but people need to be concerned about this rhetoric.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's illegal. And Trump knows that, but he could care less because he has a criminal mind. And he believes that he is above the law and that there's no law that he cannot break. And guess what? Millions of Hispanics in this country voted for this. So they're about to get, and I'm sorry that this is the case, but they are about to get what they asked for. And here's why he's going to break the law in this matter. Anthony Scaramucci, who was the communication director for Trump in his first administration for about 11 days, and then he got fired. And then he began to speak, Scaramucci began to speak truth to power, and he voted for Kamala and campaigned for Kamala. Here, listen to 4 things that he says that Trump's administration is going to be about. Check this out.
He talks about non-white immigrants to the United States the way the National Socialists talked about Jews in the 1930s. So this is absolutely reprehensible. And Trump is running on 4 pillars. He's running on cruelty, misogyny, anti-immigration, and racism. And so if he gets elected, it's going to be a very tough stretch of time for the United States and, frankly, the world.
Cruelty, misogyny, immigration, and hatred. Adolf Hitler is his hero. He's channeling Adolf Hitler. He models himself after Adolf Hitler. It's who he is. And so Scaramucci said that Trump speaks about non-whites the way the National Socialist Party, the Nazi Party, talked about and viewed and treated the Jews in the 1930s and the 1940s. That's where America is going. We are on a countdown to crazy. And you better know it because it's coming. because Trump and the Republican Party, with their Project 2025, they have already told you in black and white that it's coming. And you better believe it and you better know it. Point number 3. Trump will appoint the most unqualified cabinet members in the history of U.S. politics, and it's already happening in real time. So, Donald Trump has chosen Matt Gaetz, congressman from Florida, as his attorney general. This is the same Matt Gaetz that has been under investigation by the DOJ, Department of Justice, for sleeping with an underage girl and paying young women to have sex with him. Paying them to have sex with him. This is the man he wants, who is under investigation. This is the man that he has chosen to run the Department of Justice as the Attorney General of the United States of America, the number one attorney and the number one Attorney General in the country. Can you believe it? Matt Gaetz is the ultimate surrogate and flunky for Donald Trump. The only reason why he's being consideration for the Attorney General's position is because he's the ultimate surrogate and flunky and wimp for Donald Trump. It is not based on merit. This is not meritorious. And so, by choosing him, Matt Gaetz will run roughshod through the Department of Justice and will actively pursue Trump's enemies and will make all of Trump's federal cases disappear. Now, what he cannot make disappear are the state cases in New York and in Georgia. You can't do anything about those because the Department of Justice has no jurisdiction over state cases. So that means that the 34 felony convictions that was led by Alvin Bragg, who is the attorney for the Southern District of New York, that case can proceed. That means that the fraud case that was brought by the State's Attorney General Letitia James in New York, where he was convicted and has to repay $540 million because he defrauded the federal government. He's got to repay that money. That's a state case. And Attorney Fani Willis, the district attorney Fani Willis down in Atlanta, can proceed with her case because that too is a state case. Because he called Brad Raffensperger and told Brad that he wanted Brad to find 11,780 votes because he had 11,779 votes. He just needed one more vote, and he wanted Brad to find that by hook or by crook. That was a criminal act. And so Fani took him to court for that. And so she can proceed with that because Matt Gaetz has no jurisdiction over that case. And then there's Pete Hegseth, who was nominated for Secretary of Defense. He himself is currently embroiled in a sexual assault and far-right extremism scandals. And then that weren't enough, Robert Kennedy Jr. will head the Department of Health and Human Services. So check this out. These three individuals, Matt Gaetz, Mike Hegseth, and Robert Kennedy, all have been charged with sexual misconduct. So, why is Trump choosing them? Here's why. Trump is picking cronies that he can manipulate. Those who will not challenge his illegal activities. That's why. Let's go to point number 5. Trump's surrogates will permit him to become the most unhinged and radical president we've ever seen. Why? Because he's punked them into submission. Perfect example here is Mitch McConnell. McConnell can't stand Trump, but like most Republicans in Congress, he tolerates his foolishness. But behind closed doors, he reviles Trump. Check out this graphic. Check out this graphic. Check this out. In private, he called him stupid, despicable, ill-tempered, not very smart, irascible, and nasty, and a sleazeball. And it was Mitch McConnell, after January 6, 2021, who was the Senate majority, could have gotten enough votes to impeach him. And he stood up on January 7th, 4 o'clock in the morning, and said that Trump was responsible for the insurrection that had taken place the day before. He was responsible for it. He incited it. And then it was time for impeachment. He dropped the ball and wouldn't lead the vanguard to impeach him. We wouldn't be in this mess if sycophants, flunkies, and wimps like Mitch McConnell had a backbone, which they don't. Which they don't. Now, we should not be surprised at all of this, because point number 5, the Apostle Paul prophesied that all of this was going to happen about 2,000 years ago. And here's what he says, 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 through 5, starting with verse 3. He says, "You should know this, Timothy, that in the last days there will be very difficult times." Verse 2. "For people will love only themselves and their money. They will be boastful and proud, scoffing at God, disobedient to their parents, and ungrateful. They will consider nothing sacred." He may have been talking about Donald Trump. Verse 3, "They will be unloving and unforgiving. They will slander others and have no self-control. They will be cruel and hate what is good." That is the epitome of Donald John Trump. Verse 4, "They will betray their friends. They will be reckless. They will be puffed up with pride and love pleasure rather than loving God." And finally, verse 5, "They will act religious," like the time he quoted 2 Corinthians. Who in the world says 2 Corinthians? It's 2 Corinthians, for goodness sakes. "They will act religious, but they will reject the power that could make them godly." Here's what scripture says to America. But America's not listening. Evangelicals are not listening. Stay away from people like that. So here's what I want to say to you. If you're a child of God, do not be surprised at the foolishness nor the illegal actions and behaviors of the president and all of his sycophants and flunkies and wimps. Don't be surprised at what's about to happen starting January 20 in 2 months. 2 months from yesterday. I'd also have you to know that Revelation 13 verses 11 through 18 has prophesied that this day was coming. And in addition to that, Liz Cheney and others have warned that if Trump is elected president, he will never leave the office because he's drunk with power. So, what do we, the children of God, need to do? We need to pray, and we need to pray for Christ to keep Trump and this soon out of control and crazy administration in check until all of God's people are sealed in their foreheads with the seal of God. I'm going to do a broadcast on that very subject in the very near future. And so as I conclude, I want to thank my incredible partner, Lorraine Edwards, for doing her usual awesome job. And my friends, if you value this content and would like to receive more on a weekly basis, because we upload a new broadcast every Monday, particularly on the weeks that we're broadcasting, and we broadcast most weeks. And so we upload a brand new episode every Monday. And so I'm asking you to do me a favor. Help me to grow the channel. Individuals, other Americans need to hear the information that's being shared on this channel. So do me several favors. Number one, hit the subscribe button so that every time we upload, you'll be notified. And then hit that notification button. And then number three, please like the video. It would help us in the algorithm on Google. And then if you think this content is valuable, last thing I want you to do is please share it with those you know and come in contact with. I will be eternally grateful. And until then, be blessed. I'll see you next time.